Mike, check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and the nostalgia has evaporated. One of the things that really drove a lot of excitement and a lot of money into the entire retro gaming space, and I'm not just talking about retro video games that you bought online, but just in general, it just seemed like everyone was into retro video games. And a lot of what drove that, right, was people coming to the realization that they had not done certain things or seen certain things in a long time. You have to remember the landscape and the environment. There was literally nothing to do. People were creating online communities to stay together virtually. Games like Animal Crossing became wildly popular because Animal Crossing was kind of like this virtual way for you to still interact with people online. You had the infamous versus battles that took place on YouTube. A lot of creators blew up during that time. And one of the things that a lot of people really started to ride was the nostalgia of their childhood because they had nothing else to do. And this is known, right? We already know this. And it seemed like for a long time, and it seems like because retro game prices have not really come down from their all-time highs like significantly, I'd say maybe across the board, there's probably been a 15% dip. But for certain games, they're still going up in price. They're still going up in value. And retro games are still being talked about, at least within the community. But at a commercial level, at a general public level, there has been a sharp decrease in interest for retro video games. And even if people are still amused by it, they're not amused to the point where they're willing to put their money behind it. I mean, I remember being in retro game shops, mom and pop shops, and seeing just, I mean, like businessmen, like dudes coming, like you could tell like a dude was on his lunch break from his corporate job. I would see moms, dads, I would see adults, a lot of adults who you could tell they hadn't been in a retro game store in a long time because the whole time they're in the store, they're like, whoa, dude, do you remember this? Whoa, dude, do you remember that? Do you remember this game? Do you remember that game? And you could see them being smacked with each wave of nostalgia every time they saw a game or a console that they hadn't seen in 25, 30, 35 years. And that drove a lot of that hype, that drove a lot of that excitement. And I think what's carried the retro gaming community through up to this point has been in large part resellers. So resellers have definitely helped to maintain the momentum from a pricing standpoint. Resellers, and then your traditional gamers and your retro enthusiasts who were already enthused about retro games prior to 2020. But now it's bottoming out, right? It's 2025. We're 5 years removed from that, and it's becoming sad to see that a lot of the stores who built their businesses off of the momentum of 2020, 2021, and 2022, a lot of those businesses and a lot of those stores are starting to see a sharp decline. And it's sad because there is a New York store that is feeling this pinch greatly. Someone sent me a news clip from a local news station in the New York City area, referencing a retro game store in Brooklyn that is basically facing closure. They need $50,000 to stay afloat. Otherwise, they're going to have to close their doors and they're going to be going out of business because they're not seeing the revenue needed to keep their business alive. Now, while the store does sell retro games, they do have a retail component to their business. They also have an arcade component to their business, which, in my opinion, was amazing. That was an amazing idea back in 2021 when you had a lot of interest and when people were really excited about retro video games. Unfortunately, not a lot of people saw where the hobby and the interest was going. And I don't think a lot of people were able to pivot fast enough. In New York City, it's very difficult to have a brick and mortar mom and pop store because real estate is wildly expensive in New York City or in anywhere within the five boroughs for that matter. Um, and so honestly, I've also seen a lot of stores who did launch in 2020, 2021. I've seen a lot of stores pivot and do a few things differently. Um, and I think that one of the things that I've seen, there's a few things that I've seen stores do. One of the things that I've seen stores pivot to is to an online model, right? They've pivoted to an online model. Maybe they've closed their storefront and they've transitioned their business to online, selling through Amazon, selling through eBay, or in some cases they might build their own, personal website and then they start selling that way. That's one way that I've seen some businesses survive. Another way that I've seen businesses survive is that not only do they have the sales component of their business where they're selling games out of their store, but some of the most successful stores that I've seen have also incorporated a repair aspect to their brick and mortar store. There are a few mom and pop shops that opened in 2020, even here in the New York City area, that have actually expanded. But it's because they did more than just sell games. They got into repairs, and repairs are huge, especially when you're repairing PS5s, PS4s. If you're able to repair not only the retro stuff but the modern stuff, that's another way that you can drive revenue and just keep people interested in coming to your store. You really need the foot traffic. That's what keeps things going. Um, the other aspect that I've seen some businesses do is they incorporate different um, elements again to drive foot traffic. They incorporate more TCG type stuff, right? Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering. They host tournaments. They pretty much make themselves a community hub for more than just gaming, more than just retro games. They diversify. Now, I don't know what this store's business model is. All of my information I got from pretty much like a 5-minute news clip, but it seemed like from the news clip that the store primarily focused on retro gaming, arcades, and consoles. And everyone knows, anyone who's like, in their 30s knows that arcades are dead. Back in the day, arcades were popping. That was the thing to do. That was where you went after school. But because most of these kids do their gaming online, they're going home. They're not really trying to get together in an arcade to play games. They're going home to play at home or play online. And this is really sad to see because, this store, I'm sure there's a lot of stores like them that started during the height of the retro game craze and are now starting to feel the pinch because people don't have the disposable income to invest and spend time playing video games. And I don't know what this is going to mean for mom and pop shops, but I'm wondering what this store can do to save themselves. I know that they started a GoFundMe. I think I'm going to be jumping on there to try and see if I can donate just to kind of help out. Maybe I'll pop in and just buy a few games to help support. But let me know down in the comments what you think about this. Do you think that you'll see more stores close in 2025, or do you think that there's other things that store owners can do to help revive their business? Let me know, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.